Hi, my name is Jorge, and I'm gonna tell you how I used to make a living at 16 doing dirty work, in a very literal sense. 25 years ago, an economic crisis took over our country. I can't say our family prospered before the crisis, but at least my father had a steady job that gave us a small but sustainable income. My mom was a housewife. We lived in the outskirts of Mexico. My father really wanted me to receive a formal education, so I had to go to school. I sort of envied my friends who didn't seem to have a care in the world. What did they do in their endless free time? Not much. They'd run around the streets causing mischief, or sometimes help their parents. In 1994, the factory my dad used to work for was significantly downsized. That was when our lives changed for the worst. Mom went job hunting every day, only to return home empty-handed. She kept trying for about 2 weeks until Dad told her to drop it and focus on taking care of the kids. We needed to survive somehow. Most of our ideas were downright ridiculous though. One of the gigs I suggested was to hold a sign offering clueless tourists who were lost in a remote barrio to walk them back to their hotel. I actually spent 2 days at the bus stop with a sign, but no tourists ventured away from downtown Mexico City, where the streets were well lit and patrolled by the police. Our next business idea was to sell street food. My parents spent the last of their money on groceries to cook our traditional burritos and American-style hot dogs. We prepared the food at home before I brought it to a crowded area to sell. To my astonishment, I found out I was not alone. The streets was crammed with entrepreneurs like myself. They were touting customers in and inviting tourists to try local food. Picture this, they set up street kitchens right there with no running water and only a lopsided box to serve as a table. Of course it didn't make a good tourist attraction, and the locals were too poor for us to earn enough money feeding them. There were no fridges, so the food was just heating up in the sun. It was sad to watch the last of our money rot away. Funny thing I remember, a wealthy looking man approached me and told me I should quit this nonsense. According to him, the thing to do during a crisis is to buy stocks. What he did was purchase Apple stock for $1 per share at the end of 1993. He pledged not to sell it for 20 years. I wonder if he kept his promise, but if it did, he must have sold it in 2013 for 80 times more money than he had invested. Anyway, after I spent a few more hours on the street and saw 2 hot dogs, I figured I'd heed the man's advice and call it quits. The leftover burritos were spoiled and smelling bad. I was frustrated and angry. Back home, I announced my career as a street vendor was over. Mom tried to repurpose the spoiled burritos for dinner. I still remember the smell and taste, as well as a stomachache I had for days after that dinner. Days dragged on, foodless and mirthless. We needed to find a way to survive. I couldn't sit around idly. Once I was passing by a landfill. I noticed lots of people digging through the trash. After I snooped around a little to see what kind of things they found, I concluded that occupation was worth a try. Next morning, I went to the garbage dump and teamed up with some dude to dig through the stinky heap together. At the end of the day, I didn't waste my time. Some of my findings could be sold for scrap, and some things were good enough to sell at the market after washing them clean. My best find was a genuine leather belt that must have been thrown away by mistake, or by someone who was filthy rich. I washed it, and the next afternoon I was offering it for a reasonable price. To my surprise, I sold it. I returned home with some bread and grains. My garbage business was fruitful. Next day, I took my buddy, who was a man of uncertain age, to the city's largest landfill. It was filled with more people than garbage. They were swarming in the huge piles of waste, looking for anything valuable or exciting. Some of them lived there. An entire family would set up camp next to the landfill and hang out their laundry on clotheslines. I had to spend night on site once in a while as well, when I didn't want to miss a shipment of garbage that was rumored to come from a wealthy neighborhood. Eventually, I was lucky enough to find a wallet smelling of expensive woman's perfume. It contained a golden necklace, a few hundred pesos, and a handful of centavos. I spent a whole evening persuading my family I hadn't stolen it though. Mom even insisted we should try and find the owner by checking where the garbage shipment had come from. Dad stayed silent for a long while before declaring, "Finders keepers." And so our newfound riches allowed me to get out of the dumpster for a while. But I was still eager to make money. And that was when I came up with a stunning idea to shine shoes next to the entrance of a 5-star hotel. I shared the plan with my parents and they gave me a few pesos out of the garbage treasure so I could go downtown. I set up shop a little way away from the door at first. My first customer was an imposing man from a different country. He liked my service so much, he visited me twice, in the morning before leaving the hotel, and then after he returned. The next morning, he told me I should be bolder if I wanted to survive in the country. If I moved closer to the door, I'd have more customers. And he was right, the customers were lining up. I never named a fixed price, I just said, pay what you want, hoping that my rich clients would be generous. Indeed, they were. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see my tip jar was filling up with coins and bills. Sure, cleaning people's shoes is dirty work in every sense of the word. Your hands are covered in mud from touching dirty shoes all the time, and the nature of the job feels degrading. The payment was good, so I kept doing it. What did it matter if the work was dirty as long as the cash was clean? Years later, I never let myself forget that first step in my career. I'm actually thankful for the financial crisis. It made me determined to set up goals for myself and reach them, and our misery became a great source of motivation for me. Today I'm the owner of a flourishing trucking business in the US. I enjoy my life, and I make more than enough to provide for my family. I remain convinced you should never get discouraged even when your situation is dire. If you keep looking for ways to survive, one of your projects is bound to succeed and bring you good fortune. Do you guys want more episodes? Then press the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Want to see your own story? Then send them over to this email here.